Preet Mickelson talked about it on the Sonny Brown podcast with Greg and then Sonny about he has a hard time figuring out what his role is now as a coach that he's implemented it. How do you overcome that? Like staying true to letting them figure it out and then still cueing them or giving them things to look for without giving them the answer. I kind of attribute it to like, I'm not going to do my son's homework for him, but I'm going to lead him as far as I can until he figures it out. You know what I mean? Like how do you approach it as a coach now that you aren't telling them exactly what they need to do?
Right. And so here's the thing. It just requires you to use different language, internal cues versus external cues. If you are familiar with that, it's where like the way you're going to coach is going to have to be different too. And it should already have sort of been leaning that way too, rather than me telling you to like get a frame in, right? I would rather tell you to get his head off your body, right? Try using your arms to do that, try off balancing to do that, whatever it is. To the more broader question of like, what's the role of the coach now? It's the same. It's the role that most coaches in other sports have: watching practice, seeing what's happening, what do we need to work on, and then thinking, how can I take what I've seen here as raw data and make it into an actionable training plan so that we can have progress, right? That's sort of one of our primary functions. Because before, our function was look up a random move, teach random move. That's it, right? That's a very passive process. Now, and it's funny because people will make it seem like it's going to be like you're going to be super hands off. I feel like I'm secretly more hands on because I'm watching everything and I'm trying to remind you of what you should be focused on, right? And over and over and over. So like now my job is the analyst, my biggest thing is how can I, practice design? How can I create the practice that'll help what I see in this room? Because for example, like some days my first game that I do will be super broad and I'll see what people are naturally doing. I'm like, okay, good. I'm going to make the next game around this. We were doing like, for example, we were doing some sort of game off a body lock. And I was like, hey, top player, your goal is to get, chest to chest, past the legs finally. Bottom player, you're just trying to get back to seated and break the lock. Right. And then when I was playing with that constraints, I can see they're doing certain things like, everyone here to stop this is turning hard to their knees and then turning back in. So let me do a little bit of a course correct and make a rear body lock or a chest to back exposure also win for the top player. Like that's what you have to start looking at is how can I create a scenario that'll help push their skills in the right way, that I think becomes a lot more the role because it is true, dude. Before I used to have to be like, not a have to, I was like happy to be the guy who knew the 93 details for this sick arm bar from Mount. Now my arm bar from Mount is so whack. Like not so whack, but it's like, hey, stay connected to their shoulder, keep them on the mat, separate their hands, extend their arm over a hard part of your body. Like that's not that sexy. But there are things I can be, telling them to focus on while trying to accomplish that. And that's like the real thing. But yeah, the role does change, but it actually just makes you more of what a traditional coach would be in other sports, in non-martial arts sports.